During the fourth and fifth premiership of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, a number of corruption scandals have been investigated allegedly directly involving Netanyahu and his close political circle. The Israel police began investigating Netanyahu starting in December 2016. Police recommended indictments against Netanyahu, and on the 21st of November 2019, Netanyahu was officially indicted for breach of trust, accepting bribes, and fraud. As a result of the indictment, Netanyahu is legally required to relinquish his ministry portfolios other than Prime Minister. Netanyahu's trial in the Jerusalem District Court began on the 24th of May 2020. On the 21st of November 2019, Netanyahu was officially charged of deception and breach of trust in cases 1000 and 2000, and of deception, breach of trust, and receiving bribes in case 4000. In case 1000, Netanyahu has been charged with having had a conflict of interest when, in the capacity of Minister of Communications, he handled affairs related to the business interests of Arnon Milchan. Over the course of 20 years, Netanyahu received from Milchan, and from a friend of Milchan's, James Packer, expensive cigars and champagne, worth $195,000, and jewelry for Netanyahu's wife Sarah costing $3,100. The charges cite three separate incidents in which Netanyahu assisted Milchan. In the first, Netanyahu contacted U.S. officials regarding Milchan's visa to the U.S. In the second, in 2013, Netanyahu discussed with then Finance Minister the possibility of extending the period of an investment tax break that would help Milchan. In the third, Netanyahu directed an official of the Communications Ministry to provide information to Milchan regarding a merger of Milchan's telecommunication companies. The two largest newspapers in circulation in Israel are Yedioth Aharonot and Israel Hayom. Israel Hayom, owned directly and indirectly by Netanyahu's personal friend and benefactor Sheldon Adelson, is often criticized by the political left for portraying Netanyahu in an overly positive light. Conversely, Yedioth is often criticized by the right for being unfairly negative towards Netanyahu. Netanyahu and the editor of Yedioth, Arnon Noni Moses, held 3 meetings between 2008 and 2014, during which they discussed passage of legislation that would limit circulation of Israel Hayom in exchange for Yedioth hiring journalists more favorable to Netanyahu. The legislation received support from left-wing parties but failed due to opposition from Netanyahu's coalition, which Netanyahu says he dissolved due to his opposition to the legislation. Netanyahu has been charged with fraud and breach of trust in the case. Moses has been charged with attempted bribery. Netanyahu is not a suspect in case 3000. 3 Dolphin-class submarines and 4 Sussex-class corvette were purchased from the German company ThyssenKrupp by Israel. The suspicion in this case refers to swaying the deal in ThyssenKrupp's favor for the personal gain of several of the people involved. Netanyahu's cousin and personal lawyer David Shimron, who represented the German company in Israel, is one of the main suspects. Case 4000 involves the communication conglomerate Bezeq. The investigation investigated, among other issues, whether falsehoods were made with regards to paperwork leading to favorable business dealings for Bezeq owner Shul Elovich in exchange for favorable reporting to Netanyahu by Waller. The Israeli police recommended on 2 December 2018 that bribery charges be brought against Netanyahu and his wife. On 21 November 2019, Israeli Attorney General Avichai Mandelblit officially brought charges against Netanyahu of fraud, breach of trust, and receipt of bribes. Case 1270 related to a suspicion that Netanyahu's former media advisor offered District Court President Hilla Gerstal an appointment to the vacated Attorney General of Israel in exchange for closing a case against Netanyahu's wife, an offer Gerstal refused. The case has been compared to the Bar on Hebron affair in 1997. During Netanyahu's first term, involving the appointment of Roni Bar-On to Attorney General. In January 2019, the case was closed for lack of evidence. Several events have followed the investigations as they had widespread implications. As of September 2017, protesters have held Sunday rallies in Petah Tikva for 41 consecutive weeks to protest what they claim as interference with the investigations by the Attorney General Avichai Mandelblit. Rallies have also been held in Tel Aviv's Rabin Square to protest government corruption, even in the midst of the COVID-19 crisis, where demonstrators stood the required 2 meters apart and wore masks. Supporters of Netanyahu organized counter-protests. In early August 2017, leader of the coalition David Bitan began calling to arms the members of the Likud party. First in the form of the counter-protests in Petah Tikva, later by threatening any party member who won't stand behind Netanyahu of getting even in the next p.